When you were reading through all of that documentation, did you get any sense that there was an analysis of where all of this might lead, and in particular, the risks of further ethnic cleansing or insurrection, guerrilla warfare, whatever it was? Because I would have been very surprised if there wasn't some analysis within the UK government at the time that this wasn't going to end in a good place.
The British documents and the British, it was Colonial Office documents mostly, because Lord George handed the responsibility for Palestine to Churchill and to the Colonial Office, from the Foreign Office to the Colonial Office in January, February 1921. During the 1920s, the 3 or 4 men, and they were all men, who were responsible for the Middle East desk at the Foreign Office, a man in particular called Sir John Shuckburgh, who was the man responsible from 1921 through to 1931, I would say they felt reasonably comfortable that they could manage the situation, and provided they kept the Arab the Arab nationalists in Palestine relatively weak, the British position would not be deeply questioned. I think after the 1929 riots and difficulties, and then you had the Hope-Simpson Commission and so on in 1930, things became a little more questionable. And then I would say by the mid-1930s, yes, the British were getting seriously worried about the possibility of an insurrection. And in fact, one of the High Commissioners, a man called Sir John Chancellor, who was the High Commissioner around 1930, 1931, he told the Foreign Office and the Colonial Office very clearly that unless Palestinians are allowed to take an increasing part in their own government, and we allow elections and so on, and the Balfour Declaration is modified, there will be trouble. And he said this. And for his pains, he was removed pretty sharply. And another High Commissioner was brought in and was quite happy to maintain the mandate, what we call the British mandate policy. When the Arab revolt, general strike, started in May 1936, then, of course, the British became, yes, a lot more agitated and irritated and wondering about quite what would happen. And I remember there was a Foreign Office official, I've forgotten his name now, I'm losing names. There was a senior Foreign Office official who said in 1936, when many more Jewish refugees were fleeing desperate from Germany into Palestine, he sent out a memo saying, if this Jewish immigration continues, there will be a Jewish state in Palestine. And this was in 1936. So, yes, the British basically thought they could manage the situation. And in fact, even in 1939, after they had brutally suppressed, with Montgomery and others, had brutally suppressed the Palestinian rebellion, they still reckoned that they could hold on to Palestine. In 1939, because I've read the French records, I would say the British government and the French government both planned to stay in Palestine and stay in Lebanon and Syria. And then obviously the Second World War took place and everything changed. But basically they thought they could manage, and Palestine was very important to them because of the Suez Canal. And remember, India was not yet independent during the Second World War. So the Indian Army was very, very, very important. And the Suez Canal, in order to bring Indian troops through the Suez Canal to Europe, was a major military factor.